Breaking news this Sunday night, a new apparent assassination attempt on Donald Trump's life. The gunshots fired at his golf club.
Today, had there been a gunfight, we were ready to engage.
The man taken into police custody and what Trump is saying. Relief in the air.
I'm extremely excited.
The tentative deal Air Canada has landed to avert a pilot strike. The deadly storm Boris batters parts of Europe. The harrowing rescues and scramble to find survivors. Plus, Jasper's road to rebuilding, how tourism is already bouncing back.
We had a table from Australia of 6.
And what happens to people who lost their homes.
Global National. Reporting tonight, Carolyn Jarvis.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. We begin with breaking news out of the U.S. The FBI says it is investigating what appears to be another assassination attempt on former U.S. President Donald Trump. It unfolded at Trump's West Palm Beach Golf Club this afternoon, where the Secret Service opened fire at a man pointing a rifle toward the golf club. According to the Associated Press, authorities have named a suspect, 58-year-old Ryan Wesley Routh. They are still working to determine a motive.
And we had units here that immediately sealed off the area. Fortunately, we were able to locate a witness that came to us and said, hey, I saw the guy running out of the bushes. He jumped into a black Nissan, and I took a picture of the vehicle and the tag, which was great.
Our Washington Bureau Chief Jackson Proskow is with us now. Jackson, what do we know about how this unfolded?
Yeah, Carolyn, this happened around 1:30 in the afternoon local time. We understand the former president was actually moving between holes on the golf course when one of the agents who was moving in front of him to essentially clear the security perimeter before the next hole actually saw what he believed to be the barrel of a gun sticking out of the bushes. It was at that point that he then engaged with the suspect, who police now say was armed with an AK-47 style rifle with a scope. The man fled, jumped out of the bushes. A witness saw him, reported that details of the vehicle he was in and the license plate to police. Police then, using license plate reader technology, were able to find the vehicle on the interstate, pull it over, and successfully arrest a suspect. What is so chilling about this, though, is what was recovered back at the scene where the barrel of that gun was originally noticed. Take a listen to what police described finding a short time ago.
Now, in the bushes where this guy was is an AK-47 style rifle with a scope, 2 backpacks which were hung on the fence that had ceramic tile in them, and a GoPro, which he was going to take pictures of. So those are being processed right now. The Secret Service agent that was on the course did a fantastic job. What they do is they have an agent that jumps one hole ahead of time to where the president was at. And he was able to spot this rifle barrel sticking out of the fence and immediately engage that individual, at which time the individual took off.
Jackson, this is the second apparent attempt on Trump's life in just over 2 months. How could this happen again? Yeah, it was July 13th when that first horrific shooting happened in Butler, Pennsylvania. This time around, effectively, what the Secret Service is saying is that because Donald Trump is not the sitting president, he is only a presidential candidate and former president, they only clear sort of a protective bubble around him as he moves around the golf course. If he were the sitting president, they say that the entire periphery of the golf course, every road in and around it, would have been shut down. That is simply not the case here. Understandably, there has been a tremendous amount of scrutiny, though, on the Secret Service and its procedures for presidential candidate protection, specifically following the Butler assassination attempt on Trump. And if you're watching closely, you will notice that both Trump and Kamala Harris, when they are speaking outdoors at rallies now, are actually surrounded by a wall of bulletproof glass. Certainly, there are going to be a lot of very tough questions about the access to the perimeter around Trump now as a presidential candidate. We should also point out that Kamala Harris, the current vice president, and of course the woman running against Trump, posted on X, formerly Twitter, a short time ago. She said, "I have been briefed on reports of gunshots fired near former President Trump and his property in Florida. I am glad he is safe. Violence has no place in America." Carolyn, clearly what is going on here, though, is that the political temperature is so hot in this country right now that it seems like a very difficult task for the Secret Service, guaranteeing the security of both of these presidential candidates. And certainly there will be fallout from this throughout the remainder of the campaign. All right, thank you for all of this. Jackson Proskow in Washington for us tonight. Turning to other news, there is a collective sigh of relief from the hundreds of thousands of travelers booked on Air Canada. The airline and its pilots union reached a tentative 11th-hour deal last night, preventing a work stoppage that would have grounded flights. Global's Sean O'Shea reports on what we know about the agreement keeping Canada's biggest airline in the air.
For Air Canada customers with travel plans, the last few days have been worrying. Concerns about a pilot strike or lockout that could have started this weekend. Instead, a settlement. Good news, say these travelers in Calgary.
I'm extremely excited.
I'm happy to hear that. I'm really, really happy to hear that.
The pilots union at Air Canada struck a tentative deal on a deadline.
And I think that what's happened here is great for Air Canada, even greater for pilots.
Air Canada says the deal provides a framework for the future growth of the airline. A source tells Global News pilots will receive what amounts to a pay raise of 41.7%, cumulative over 4 years, including a 26% raise retroactive to September of last year. Robert Kokonis is an aviation consultant.
It seems like a lot, but I think there has to be some perspective as to what's been given up over the years in ensuring that Air Canada has got a solid pay package to keep the best and the brightest.
The pilots union says the deal will put an end to an outdated and stale decade-old 10-year framework, which left pilots far behind what their American counterparts were paid. The effort on consumers with the deal.
Increasing wages for airline employees will result in an impact on fares.
At some point, somebody has to pay. There's no free lunch.
The threat of labor actions already cost some travelers who were given the option of refunds or to make other plans.
If we didn't show up for this trip, we would have lost the tour and then we would have lost everything.
So this is costing you money?
A lot of money.
Enza Elimo and her husband Joe had to spend an extra $4,000 booking on another carrier to connect with a non-refundable tour of Italy.
We didn't want to take a chance and lose our flight to Europe because we invested too much money.
Turns out they didn't need to switch their plans, but the uncertainty came at a cost.
I think that what you've got is a public that is quite exhausted by the trials and tribulations of flying.
The tentative deal still requires the approval of Air Canada's 5,400 pilots. The union is recommending that members vote yes. Carolyn.
Sean O'Shea at Toronto Pearson International Airport, thank you. In Ottawa, things are looking up for Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre and his MPs who held their caucus retreat today. The Conservatives wrapped up the summer flush with cash and well ahead in the polls. And as they prepare for Parliament's return tomorrow, they're aiming to win over more working Canadians by taking a more Labour and union-friendly approach. David Akin explains.
Well, thank you very much, Dawn, for that wonderful introduction.
For the Parliament Hill speech he gave Sunday to his caucus, Opposition leader Pierre Poilievre put on a suit and a tie, but most of his summer has been spent in a T-shirt, often wearing a yellow safety vest, as he crisscrossed the country visiting farms, fishers, miners, loggers, and factory workers at their work sites.
I had a great summer traveling across this country and in 214 events in all regions.
This summer-long focus on working men and women is a deliberate strategy made clear in this television ad from the party that began airing earlier this month.
A country is built by the people who rise when it is still dark.
Those are the folks that we're going to work for this morning on a Sunday morning and every day in this place.
It's a focus that has broadened the Conservative fundraising base and has powered them to leads of 20 points or more in one poll after another all summer long. No wonder then that the party is desperate for an election as fast as possible.
The overwhelming message that I heard in my riding is that Justin Trudeau needs to go. Canadians are looking forward to a carbon tax election.
The message is very clear at the doors when you get there. Can you please get an election as quickly as possible? So here we are.
But the Conservatives cannot bring the minority Liberal government down all by themselves. It would take the combined votes of the Conservatives plus the Bloc Québécois plus the New Democrats, all of them, in order to do that. And so, frustrated Conservatives now spend about as much time attacking BQ leader Yves-François Blanchet and NDP leader Jagmeet Singh as they do attacking Justin Trudeau. And look for that new dynamic when leaders of all four parties face off in the first question period of the fall, Monday afternoon. Carolyn.
We'll be watching. David Akin in Ottawa, thank you. In a pushback against the federal government's recent pledge to reduce the number of immigrants protesters came together to advocate for their equal rights.
United will never be defeated.
Hundreds rallied in Toronto and Ottawa, capping off similar demonstrations across the country since Thursday. Organizers are demanding permanent residency status for all migrants, including temporary foreign workers, international students, and refugees. It's all in response to what they call racist scapegoating because of the housing, healthcare, and affordability crises. The desperation for a new life turned deadly off the coast of France when an overcrowded migrant boat capsized, killing at least 8 people. They were trying to travel to the UK through the English Channel. More than 50 people had to be rescued. 6 were sent to hospital, including a 10-month-old baby suffering hypothermia. It was only 2 weeks ago another overcrowded migrant boat sank in the Channel, killing 12 people. On the second anniversary of Mahsa Amini's death, is Canada living up to its promise? Coming up, the pledge to remove senior Iranian officials from our country. But has it happened? People gathered in Toronto today in memory of Mahsa Amini. Tomorrow marks 2 years since her death at the hands of Iran's repressive regime. Amini was arrested for allegedly violating the country's headscarf law and died in police custody. Ottawa responded with sanctions on Iran, saying it would expel senior Iranian officials. But as Nathaniel Dove reports, there is little transparency on whether that goal has been achieved.
Outrage in Iran and Canada. 2 years ago, Iranian so-called morality police killed 22-year-old Mahsa Amini for not wearing her headscarf properly, prompting protests. Azam Jangravi watched, full of hope. She took off her own headscarf in 2018 to protest the lack of women's rights that she says she suffered from when leaving her abusive husband and was arrested.
It was the best moment in my life because I wanted to be a good role model for my daughter.
She fled to Canada, a refugee. Canada banned senior Iranian officials from entering the country shortly after the Amini protests, also vowing to remove any already here.
Those who are most responsible will be rendered inadmissible to Canada permanently.
Canada identified 15 senior Iranian officials, 1 left on their own, and Canada ordered 2 to leave. Syed Salman Samani, a former deputy minister who claimed he was unaware his boss, the interior minister, ordered police to kill protesters in 2019. The other was a top scientist, Majid Iranmanesh. But so far, Canada only deported 1. The government won't say who and is keeping proceedings secret.
You are sitting in this country, you want to be free, you want to fight for freedom. Next to you, the same status is for maybe a torture.
According to Canada Border Services, 5 other alleged senior regime officials face ongoing deportation hearings. Global News applied for the hearings to be public, but the government board conducting them denied that request because the alleged Iranian officials claimed to be refugees. And, according to the decision, public hearings pose significant risks.
This is something that is totally unacceptable. This is a mockery of justice.
Activist Mehdi Maradi says Iranian Canadians want to know who they are and what they did, especially because the regime can still target them. Jangravi says proceedings should be public for those who hurt the people of Iran.
I am the first person that say to government of Canada, please remove them.
Nathaniel Dove, Global News, Toronto.
The consequences of relentless rain. Ahead, the deadly flooding devastating parts of Europe. Catastrophic flooding continues to sweep through Central and Eastern Europe from Storm Boris, claiming at least 7 lives. Some areas have received up to a month's worth of rain in just 2 days, pushing emergency responders to the limit and prompting officials to declare disaster zones. Bianca Fascini reports.
Storm Boris wreaking havoc across Central and Eastern Europe, with the number of deaths and evacuations surging over the weekend. On Sunday, a firefighter died during a rescue mission in Austria, and 1 person drowned in Poland, where a local river has reached record heights, over 4 meters above the alert level. And Proskow, a town of 25,000, was partly underwater as the local river rose to 665 centimeters, well above the alarm level of 240, and surpassing a record seen in heavy flooding in 1997. Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk warning the situation is, quote, still dramatic in many areas. This follows 4 deaths in Romania since Saturday, though the country's prime minister says several others are still missing.
The fridge landed over me and I couldn't get out anymore, so I yelled all night long until some people came and saved me out of there.
As cleanup efforts are underway, a government official says temporary shelter will be made available soon.
There are some living containers that are on the way that will be installed.
In addition, at least 4 people are missing in Czechia. The prime minister writing on X that, quote, many people are in for another rough night, and is calling an extraordinary meeting of the government on Monday. So far, nearly 10,000 residents have evacuated their homes.
In 1997, it wasn't like this here. It was dry in this place. It is horrible.
That 1997 storm, which affected Czechia, Poland, and Germany, led to 114 deaths and an estimated $4.5 billion in damages. The heavy rain from Boris, which began Thursday, is expected to last until at least Monday. Bianca Fascini, Global News, Washington.
The U.S. is rejecting claims it was involved in an alleged plot to kill Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Venezuela made the allegations last night, announcing the arrest of 6 foreigners it says were part of a CIA plot to overthrow the government. Among the accused, 3 Americans, 2 Spaniards, and a Czech. On Thursday, the U.S. Treasury imposed sanctions on several of Maduro's allies, accusing them of obstructing the presidential election in July. SpaceX wrapped up its historic 5-day Polaris Dawn mission today, with the team now back on Earth.
And there you can see.
The 4-person civilian crew aboard the Resilience capsule, led by billionaire Jared Isaacman, splashed down off the coast of Florida this morning. This just days after they pulled off the first commercial spacewalk in history. The team also traveled farther into space than anyone else since NASA's Apollo program more than 50 years ago. All of it marking significant milestones for private space exploration. State of emergency over. Next, as Jasper looks to revitalize its economy, workers are wondering, where will they live?
So sorry, Doctor, one more thing. That means I shouldn't fight for like a while, right?
No, fight all you want.
Really?
Yeah.
That's Canadian and OG Cree actor Defero Wunatai, star of the Indigenous-led TV series Reservation Dogs. The 22-year-old is nominated for Outstanding Lead in a Comedy Series at the 76th Emmy Awards tonight, where there's no shortage of Canadian talent. Comedy legends Steve Martin and Martin Short are also up for the same award for their leading roles in Only Murders in the Building. Tonight's ceremony is also being hosted by father-son duo Eugene and Dan Levy. Prince Harry is marking a milestone birthday, his 40th, and the royal family put aside hard feelings to celebrate him. The royal family posted a beaming photo of Harry on social media, stating, wishing the Duke of Sussex a very happy 40th birthday today. Will and Kate reposted the message on their accounts. Relations between Harry and the royal family have been strained following the publication of his explosive memoir. A significant step for Jasper, still recovering from July's wildfire. The state of emergency is lifting today. The town's mayor hopes the move will encourage tourists to return, giving the economy a much-needed lift. But as Heather Urichs West reports, business owners and workers have another issue on their hands: where to live.
After a summer of so much loss, life in the town of Jasper is slowly coming back.
We had a table from Australia of 6, so that was unexpected. So we did see a few visitors.
Evil Dave's Grill reopened last Wednesday, the municipality's state of emergency lifting, with more businesses and hotels ready to accept guests.
The gradual resumption of our necessary visitor economy will reduce the risk of some returning residents falling into further adversity from prolonged unemployment.
Still, many who once called Jasper home currently have no place to go. When a wildfire tore through this community back in July, more than 40% of the town's residents lost their homes.
Right now, we've got essential workers in hotel rooms. I live in a hotel room. It's definitely, I'm going to say, a short-term solution. It's certainly not a long-term way to live in a hotel.
It will take years to rebuild the houses and apartments lost. And so for the winter, officials are working on a temporary housing plan that may include work camp-style accommodations in trailers.
It is important to recognize that the interim housing supply will be limited and priority will have to be given to groups such as essential workers once these interim housing options are in place.
Which could still leave hundreds without homes. Stephen Nelson had been living in an apartment for seniors in Jasper. Now his only option is to move away.
Myself, I'm hoping to get into a similar seniors apartment in Edmonton. And then if Pine Grove Manor gets built before it's time for me to leave planet Earth, then I hope that I get to move back to Jasper.
Though he's been told that could take 2 years or more, as this jewel of Canada's Rocky Mountains embarks upon a long, hard road to recover and heal. Heather Yurex West, Global News, Calgary.
And that is Global National for this Sunday night. I'm Carolyn Jarvis. Tonight's Your Canada is in honor of a true national hero.
2, 1, let's go!
Thousands of people across the country took part in the 44th annual Terry Fox Run today. Back in 1980, Fox set out on his Marathon of Hope to raise money for cancer research. To date, the Terry Fox Foundation has raised more than $900 million. Thanks for watching. Donna will be back with you tomorrow. Have a great night.